Okay. Well, welcome to another episode of Fuck You, Dad. This is a special episode. We have a guest we've never had on the podcast before, Sober Kenyon. Holy shit.
Never been in the presence of him once.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you listen to the Nick Mullen episode,
Which you're going to want to do that for this episode. Just so it's like you want to see the footage of 9/11 before the documentary. Like, you got to know about the terrorist attack to really fully comprehend, like, the inner workings of what
I would definitely call that day a personal 9/11.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Because it's not like, you know, most times you have a guest on the podcast, people hit me up, and they're like, hell yeah, like, that was good, that's hilarious. And this one, people are hitting me up like, you okay?
Yeah.
Which is not, you know,
the
ideal. So, to be fair, no one comes to my defense. I was on a boat beforehand. And boat Chicago in the summer.
Yes.
It's hard to not get blacked out.
Yeah, we'll go through the events of the day. Kenyon goes on to a boat before we get to the studio. And I got to the studio. We're getting everything ready. We're having Nick Mullen on the podcast. It's a big day.
It's a pretty important day.
I'm expecting you to come showered in a nice shirt, ready to go.
Yeah, that's what you would think.
Yes.
That's what a logical person would think,
You showed up, basically, Cheeseburger in Paradise playing in the background, eyes crossed, and you went, you opened the door and you went, I only had 3 drinks, and I had a lot of chips. And no one said anything.
In my defense, also, to chime in, Xanax is a hell of a drug. And I don't think anybody is really given... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a 10 out of 10.
It is, yes.
You
were pretty relaxed. I will give Xanax that. You looked very relaxed.
I looked very, I mean, you know how confident I have to be to walk in just brain absent and be like, I'll kill this with Nick Mullen. Yeah. Which is how I felt. Because that's how I felt, like, during that time, because I remember after the podcast distinctly thinking, killed that.
Oh, dude, this is another thing I wanted to talk to you about, because I wanted to punch you in the fucking face, because we recorded that monstrosity of a podcast where they had to leave early because of the show and everything was awkward and weird, and then you had the nerve to come out of this room and look at me and be like, I think that was our best episode. I wanted to fight you in the street. I left. I just said,
to be fair, it did feel like the best episode.
For you, I'm sure, because it was effortless. It was like one of those shits where you didn't have to wipe. You were like, oh my God, we did a podcast? That's crazy. That was great.
I don't know if you've ever woken up into a podcast before, but it's pretty cool, dude. I do feel honored to have, like, most people's rock bottoms happen somewhere, some alleyway. Mine was filmed and broadcasted live.
Yeah.
It's 30...
Our most viewed video is your rock bottom, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty cool thing to have.
That's pretty niche. That's a pretty 2022 cool thing, is my rock bottom was recording a podcast with Nick Mullen.
I think next we should have like Rogan or
have Rogan on.
Have Rogan on, and you'll just be nodding out.
Yeah,
in the
I'll
corner.
just do heroin before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
here's Tom Segura and Kenyon on peyote, trying to talk to Tom Segura.
Stakes.
Just up the stakes and up the drugs, dude.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
No, that's like the new. It's instead of hot ones, it's just me on trying to interview someone like on too many drugs.
Yeah, there's just 8 pills lined up in front of you, and you're like, okay, this is level 1.
Yeah, that's like, okay, first question, and then I got to do like a line of some other mystery substance, and like try to interview someone the best I can. But yeah, that was a tough. That was a tough Monday when you wake up and you're like, because normally you just embarrass yourself in front of your friends.
Yeah.
And you send those
That
apology
was, I mean,
texts.
for months that was what was happening before this.
Yeah.
It was just kind of in front of us, and we were all like, man, Kenyon's getting pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
And then I always thought, but he would never, if we actually had a real guest on a podcast, nothing would actually happen. And then you're like, well, guess what?
Yeah.
This train keeps going.
Well, you never underestimate my potential. That's number one. That's...
So you're going to meetings now.
Yeah.
I think you should be open about that on the podcast, because I think people are genuinely concerned.
Should I look into the camera and apologize?
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
All right. So if you've seen the Nick Mullen episode, I'm sorry. And right now in the podcast, step 1, I surrender. I admit I am powerless over booze and alcohol.
Uh-huh.
And booze and alcohol. That sounds like I'm still drunk, but let's say booze and Xanax. correct. But
is that step 1? What's step 2?
Step 2 is like something about God. I don't know.
Oh, that's rough.
It's a lot of God shit. Which
I was gonna say that can't settle well with you.
It's not. But then they say like you can make God whatever you want, which is like, okay, which is nice. But then some people are very distinctly like December 27th. That's the day Jesus' hand separated me from the bottle, and you're like, it sounds like he's talking about Christian God there.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound like a metaphor. But I think it's like something like first one's like you accept your powerless.
And it wasn't Jesus. It was a police officer.
Yeah. His name might have been Jesus, but.
Well,
it was bad. The day started where I was hungover and I was like, well, I'll kill the hangover.
You started that day hungover, which is crazy to me. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because when I start a day hangover, the rest of the day is me kind of like trying to get back.
That's if there was no boat, maybe. But I was like, I got to socialize on this phone, and I'm a shell of a human, so.
Yeah.
You take the Xan to kill a hangover, which is a very degenerate thing to say out loud. But, it's like
Xanax does kill a hangover. I mean,
they put that in the
I'll
bottle,
do ad reads. Sure. I mean, it's such a good drug. You don't need ad reads. You've never seen a commercial for it because, it's just, they don't need it.
Yeah, just a guy asleep, and you're like, he's happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Gatorade and a Xan, dude, whew, you're ready for the day.
That's
what you're not ready for
is a
podcast with one of the biggest podcasters of all time. One of the highest grossing podcasts ever.
Yeah, that was yeah. I don't really have
I want you to soak it in.
I almost want to get philosophical with the rationalization where I'm
Please
like,
do.
I don't remember it. Did it even happen?
Okay, well, I'll argue with that one. I'll argue with that point because we have some comments that proved that this happened.
Right.
And there are some that are funny that deserve, good for you. Like, I understand you like Nick Mullen, and he was on our little podcast, and then you got some chops, and you want to show him on the big YouTube. Good for you. You got in your licks, okay? Yeah. There are some of them that I feel are really unfair. Here, dude, it was a privilege to have him on, but he did look like an asshole. He
looked just about as fucked up as me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He also looked pretty fucked up.
He looked like he was staring off in the distance, like with a Days on with a fucking boat hat.
Yeah. And I don't know if these people who
it looked like we had the same dealer
on the YouTube. Yeah. Exactly. Right. You guys were on the same boat.
It looked like we're on the same boat. U.S. rock bottom for sure.
And it's like I get that, like, he's on all these podcasts and stuff, but I encourage these people. If they were around Nick Mullen, they would sound like an asshole too, dude. They'd be like, "Oh my God, could you sign my fucking hometown tattoo?"
And
whatever.
That would be an objectively way worse podcast.
I think so.
If we both were just
sucking their dick the whole time, not talking.
Yeah. We're like, I can't believe when you had that riff about semen on episode 30. Yeah.
Just watch deepfake porn. Watch Nick Mullen deepfake porn if that's what you want. Just people like.
Sorry, I like to challenge myself and think, well, how?
Well, you definitely mentally challenged yourself there. Okay, so here's okay. Oh, God, some of these are really.
I know. I cannot look at them.
So one. This is simple, sweet, to the point. Jay Baza, he says, "Why did Nick agree to such an unfunny shit show?" That I don't know why he agreed to do it. To be honest, I really don't. I think he was trying to promote the Adam Friedland show, which is very funny.
Yeah.
But we got lucky. Okay, I'll admit that. I think that's pretty
it's normally not an unfunny shit show.
No, normally it's a great podcast.
Yeah, normally there's not one of the hosts isn't almost dead. Normally there isn't like a weird vibe with 4 people in the room. Normally it's pretty fun. If you check out the other episodes, we kind of have a good time on here.
This comment I'm very proud is on one of our videos. It just says Tower 7 had a building-wide fire for hours before it collapsed.
Well, I just like to know that my dad watches the podcast. Yeah. It's just nice to know that my dad is supporting, and he is fact-checking and correcting me when I get 9/11 Truthery. He's like, here's the actual truth if you're going to go and try to say God's gospel.
Yeah. That's really nice to have. And it proves that we are doing something. If we're having 9/11 stuff in our comments,
honestly, that might be, if we're losing a fan base, they're passionate, they're dedicated. I say we have a famous 9/11 Truther on next time.
Yeah.
I'll be sober as can be. Go the other direction. I'll take Adderall. Sweating intense.
That's such a drug addict. Like, I'll be more sober. I'll take meth.
Yeah, no, dude, that's what. That'd be so like peak degeneracy. Like, are you sober now? You're like, yeah, dude, I smoke meth. My eyes are always open. I went the other direction. I never sleep. I haven't blinked in 37 days.
This must be the kind of podcast that relies on its guests because the hosts absolutely stink. Now, that's just mean for there's no constructive criticism in that.
We rely on guests because we only have so many stories.
Yeah.
If we exhausted first off, every human basically has like their 5. Like everyone you talk to has like their 5 stories that
Absolutely,
are nice,
yeah.
and over a friendship or something, they dose them out. Mm-hmm. But like we exhausted all of our good stories.
Yeah,
in a basement.
We've reran
to
stories.
No one. We've reran stories because I didn't have the most exciting childhood of all time, so we have to bring guests on to get some new blood, to get some new things going on.
Yeah.
Unless my dad does some new crazy shit, which I would love to, but it seems like we're trading places. I don't know.
Absolutely, and I don't want to say it was all that negative. We did grow our subs.
We're growing the subs.
And if you subscribed after the Nik Mullen episode, you get the Patreon for $1. Like, we're having a thing now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, you are a trooper. If you saw that and you went, I want more, please?
Yeah.
If you were like, I'm a fan of this.
You're a literal angel. And you deserve, I mean, it's $1. The Patreon's $1.
We'll call it the enabler tier. It's just me in an alleyway passed out, and you're like handing me a bottle. The enabler tier, dude.
Yeah, they're like, well, they got him in the studio, so I'll give him a sub.
Yeah.
You're a fucking champion.
Yeah, where they're
dude.
like, well, they're doing something.
Yeah.
They clearly...
This one is about our theme song. Is this theme song just a ripoff of the TMP theme song? I've never heard of TMP.
What's TMP?
So I have no idea. Fuck that comment and fuck you for saying it because.
Well, you know what's good is it shows that we're clearly not insecure and we don't care about it.
Oh, I'm deeply insecure. I think that's pretty clear that I'm going through the comments and they're not going to watch this.
That shit would make me relapse, so I cannot look. I was looking at it, and then I half texted the dealer's number. You're like, we got to stop.
Yeah.
We got to stop. I was like, I cannot look at that.
All right, this one's actually a constructive criticism. This is a comment I appreciate. It's real ex cav says if you put a HTTPS / before the Patreon link, we could even click on it. I appreciate that. It's a little cunty, but I appreciate them being like, hey, we can't click on the Patreon link. Put a fucking HTTPS thing. I do appreciate that.
He doesn't sound like he's going to donate. It sounds like somehow he's going to hack into and take negative money.
Yeah, that felt like. It
felt
feel like you wanted
to
the
link and then go in and take the whatever $4 you guys are making. Yeah. You know, just your parents trying to like basically funnel money to you indirectly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah. Do you have any updates?
Well, so. It was funny. So last Saturday, had some shame from the, believe it or not, Blacked on the Boat wasn't the greatest hang before I got here.
Yeah.
And then the embarrassment from the podcast. And then having the Rock Bottom live is such a unique feeling. Because normally in my past, whenever I've gotten too drunk, it's like, all right, that was embarrassing. But then, there wasn't 30,000 witnesses. Like, imagine your friend, like, pushing you into an Uber after you got caught off to the bar, and there's a crowd of 30,000 people there, and they're all just weighing in on it.
Yeah.
They're just being like, wow, that drunk guy really isn't funny. Zero charisma. Like, imagine one of the most viral moments.
I don't have to imagine, dude.
Yeah, well,
I'm kind of in it with you. It wasn't directly me,
but it's mostly at me. And then also, you don't have... It's not like that was, what's the saddest part? That wasn't even the worst thing I did that. That's they just caught me like mid-bender.
Yeah.
They caught me on like the way to the grocery store. So it's just like, that was just a timestamp. That was 5. I kept drinking. Probably till midnight.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I wish I wasn't so furious at you that I couldn't look at you, that I wish I could have witnessed what else happened. But after you were like, that was our best podcast, I was like, I can't be in the same building.
Yeah, the worst part is I showed up late and then people were like texting to be like, did you get home safe? And I'm like, was I even that drunk? Like, what's everybody? No one even parties anymore. These narcs. And, but the next Saturday, not hungover, but filled with shame. Mm-hmm. Shame like I'm hungover, just the sober shame. Worst feeling. Not even having fun.
You were so drunk that I woke up with shame. Like, I woke up being like, oh, dude,
you got like secondhand shame.
Yes,
yeah,
man. It was like leaked from you onto me.
I'm sure everyone around me woke up and had to take an Advil. Everyone around me was like, who hung out with me that day was in pajama pants the next day. Like they were, even if they drank water all night, they like got secondhand hungover.
Yeah,
just
I
my
was,
presence.
dude.
My presence.
I was barfing. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, that's the correct response. But so I'm feeling like shit. Feel just as shameful, like I'm an idiot. And normally I wouldn't answer. So but you know who called? Never does. My goddamn dad. Not even fucking around.
Get
My
out
dad
of here.
called me. And I don't even have his number. It just says like the David Adams chick and the GFI. Oh, it's his phone. Whatever. But, and he, so it's just calling. And normally I wouldn't answer. But I'm like, dude, I'll talk to anybody to get out of my head. And I swear to God, first thing, we talked about it in the episode actually. First thing he brings up, he's like, so you coming to visit? Sometime this year, I'm trying to go to Disney World.
Oh, you talked about that on the podcast.
So, and I'm like, Dad, what's this Disney World? Like, what? He's like, yeah, I got a timeshare. I'm like, how did you get a timeshare? And he's like, well, it's easy. You just call, and then there's like this one step where you got to just say you make $60,000 a year. And I just started laughing. I'm like, this is where I get it from. This is where all my problems.
Dude, yeah.
This is because that brain of being like, well, you just say you make $60,000 a year. These rubes, these idiots. Being honest, you just click the box and say, yeah, I can pay for it. Then when the time comes, you just can't pay for it.
Dude, and when that time comes, he's going to buy another car and just try to get somebody to rear end it. He's going to be just slamming on his brakes on the highway. That's his new way to make money.
We said this in an early episode, but that's like when he got this car, which is worth more than me. He has like a fancy like 2022 car, and he's just like, I'm like, how the fuck? I'm like, I have bad credit. I couldn't even I have to co-sign on an apartment. Like, how the fuck did you get that car? And he's just like, well, I told him how much I want to make. Said how much I do make.
But there's got to be
a check. That's why I'm like, well, I don't know what car dealership.
And he can't seem regular.
Right, and he just went in. He's like, I make $10,000 a month. Just, polo tucked into the sweatpants. Hat on.
Does he really dress with polo tucked into the sweatpants?
That's one of his many looks.
Oh my God,
polo,
man!
Like shitty polo shirt tucked into sweatpants.
That's like I'm not legally allowed to drive kind of stuff.
Target shoes on, and he's just like, I make 10. He looks at probably a man straight in the eye who he said a lot of weird comments about a lot of weird things to. After he stopped from some sort of Alex Jones-esque talk, he just was probably like, yeah, I make $10,000 a year or a month, probably.
And so. He has a timeshare in Disney?
He has like according to him, he has a timeshare.
Okay.
So that I have to utilize in like a month.
That's how it works, yeah.
He's like, we got to go, which at this point, he might just put a GoPro on my head and just follow my dad around.
Please do. Get something out of it.
At this point in my head, I might just go sober with a GoPro on. Just full like cop cameras and just follow my dad around Disney World. Until probably
that's a dangerous game though, because if you have a hidden camera around your dad,
then I'm like just chained up in a saw chamber where he's like, "Who sent you?" He's just slapping me in the face,
my own son.
He's like, "Who are you working for? My roommate?
Working for the agency?"
Yeah, you. Son
You're like, which agency?
Yeah,
he's like,
No, yeah. I need to say it to you after everything I didn't do for you, you piece of shit.
Oh my God! Something weird happened to me today. Because I was feeling awful about the YouTube comments. Dude, obviously they're horrible and mean and make me want to kill myself.
Right.
So I
don't give them that. Don't let these fucks have that.
No. But it changed though because today I don't know if you could see. But I got out of bed and I needed to blow my nose and I like turned around and bent down real quick and I hit my head really fucking hard on this shelf, right in my third eye, right in between the eyes. It hurt so bad. I like couldn't see, but started feeling totally different about my life. I just slammed my third eye, dude.
It fixed you.
It woke up I was like.
You got like a medical concussion.
Yeah, I was probably concussed.
Yeah. You were just dumber, that's the problem. Awareness isn't good.
Yeah.
And this is not a fun time to be aware of anything. You look at the news, everything's awful, everything's falling apart, and right now I'm like, oh, let me just have all my senses. You're like, no.
Yeah.
So you probably hit your head. Things are a little wobbly. It was kind of nice. Shit, tell me what part of the desk. I might need you to push me into that desk later.
Yeah, dude.
So we can
but you have to hit your third eye, dude. You got to open your chakras.
Yeah, I think you should start a practice where you just push people into desks.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, man, they were moved by our art so much that they had to comment on how
okay, so you hit your head really hard because that's not what happened at all. It was a drunk moron ruining a podcast, and a bunch of people went, how the fuck how did this guy get near? How did he not just rip the microphone off and pawn it halfway through? That's the vibe I had.
You really, you had those shark eyes, dude. You had the McPartland, we might have to bleep that out. Shark eyes.
I had some. I was gone. Kenyon, there was a vacancy sign.
Yes.
In my brain, Kenyon wasn't there. Kenyon was left at the house that day. Oh, I forgot my brain. I didn't pack my brain to the podcast. That's what happened. And now that's a viral moment of shame. And now it'll probably, knowing my luck, it'll get 1 million views. And millions of people.
I hope it does.
We'll see. My most viral clips, Nick. It's me drunk on a podcast. It's me basically bombing at the Laugh Factory. That has almost 150,000 views on Instagram. So if I get into a car accident tomorrow, I'll be remembered as a mediocre drunk. That's all I'll be remembered as. So that's why we got to keep pushing forward.
We gotta get some quality content. We gotta get some quality sober content out of you.
I was at one of these meetings and they were like, "How much clean time you have?" I was like, 5 days. The guy just did the sign of the cross and said, "Good luck."
Wow.
And I was like, "All right, Al." Jesus. I got ripped apart at one of these things. And then there's a guy next to me, he's like, no, we're comedians or whatever. And then the guy running, he's like, that guy isn't a comedian, he's quiet as hell. And I was just like, all right, well, I'm like,
what's YouTube comments in the meetings?
Yeah, and I was like, I'm full of shame. I'm at one of the lowest moments of my life here. Dude. Sorry I didn't bring the riffs.
And then
this other lady, who I literally said nothing to, let me reiterate, just gets up and just starts being like, I don't know what's going on. I feel this guy's spirit. I know something's going on with this man.
And she's pointing to you?
Pointing to me. Oh. And just start talking, and I was just like...
She's connected. I like her, dude. I would immediately be like, I'd be like a black woman in church. I'd be like, yes,
no,
yes,
what
ma'am,
you should
amen.
do, what you do is you get them to say, then you bring the 30,000 people who saw that video, they start going, yes, yeah, and they're like, fuck yeah. She headlines. Shitting on me. Pretty rough.
Yeah, but we're you're turning around.
We're
gonna still have great guests in the
future. We're gonna have great guests. They're gonna be even better. I'm going to be awake now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be lively. 0 boats, because we know that was the problem.
Yeah, no more boats.
No more boats. No more boats. Boats are a trigger.
Yeah.
And then I'll be conscious and my eyes will be open, and maybe if I see Nick Mullen, I'll remember what his face looks like.
Yeah, I'm pumped for that.
Yeah.
I'm pumped for that.
If I ever run into Nick Mullen one day, he'll be like, oh, you were that nightmare.
Yeah, dude.
That guy drooling into a microphone.
That's the other thing. He might remember you. He definitely won't remember me.
He will be like, that'll be the best case scenario. This just keeps turning into a giant sort of avalanche of shame where it gets viral, and then he'll have a clip on his podcast where he's like, so I did this moron's podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
Wanders in, hits a wall. It's drooling into the microphone.
Yeah.
At one point, tries to drink the microphone.
Yeah.
I don't know. He thought it was a beer. He tried to open it. It was wild.
You told both of them that you were a big fan multiple times before we started recording. So that really...
Well, you know what's really... you keep having this fun habit, Nick. One of the...
Of the only...
This is all I have, Kenyon.
It's all I have.
Only pros of blacking out is that you don't remember the shameful things you did.
You don't get to forget. You don't get to
And on the way here, you're like, you did this. And I'm like, well, I didn't know that. I did not realize that. So thanks for ruining my innocence. I already realized. It was a very low point that day.
No, we both went to Vietnam, and you have such bad PTSD. You're like, I don't remember what we did, but I'm like, you can't forget because I can't forget.
It really, it's 9/11. Never forget.
I wish I was blacked out. If we were both blacked out, dude,
good.
That would have been great.
Yeah,
because then no harm, no foul.
Should have came to the boat beforehand. That could have happened. That could have occurred.
Well, let's see. This is coming out this Friday, so if you're listening to this and you're in Asheville, North Carolina for the comedy festival, I will be there on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday, I'm doing the brewer. It's like this big brewery thing. Looks dope. And then on Thursday, I'm doing a board game cafe.
Sweet. And I Monday through Sunday, I'm going to be at various AA and NA meetings in the Chicagoland area. So if you're there, check me out. I will be sharing, and I will probably have the occasional riff, but it will mostly be heartfelt.
Get connected to this guy's spirit, because Lord knows he needs it. And
subscribe to the Patreon. We need it more now than ever.
And if you subscribed after the Nick Mullen episode, God bless you. You're a fucking angel and saint, and you deserve it. The Patreon's $1. Hop on there. There's some... If you want to hear, if you liked Kenyon drunk on the Nick Mullen episode, the Patreon's chock full of that.
Yeah, the Patreon has the archive.
Cream of the crop of that. So hop on there. God bless everybody. We love you, and I'm sure they love you, Kenyon, for being sober.
Sure.
Okay.
We're trying.
Hey guys, you just listened to another episode of Fuck You Dad. If you could follow us on our Instagram, which is FCKYOUDAD podcast. That's the important one. We also have a Twitter account, which is FCKYOUDADPODCA1. If you could follow that. Also, please submit any father stories that you have that you'd like us to make fun of, laugh at, or share. Shoot that to our Instagram DMs. And if you could please go ahead and rate the podcast, share the podcast with your friends and family that might enjoy it, and keep listening. Thank you so much.